Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bidamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And today is Friday, February 12th, 2021. And this is our weekly video. We're going to take a look and see what's been going on around the web and auctions at various places regarding Asian art, as we do every week. And there's a lot of things going on. We saw some interesting things this week, and we're going to talk about them a bit, and some upcoming sales that are happening that look pretty intriguing if you're a Chinese porcelain or a Chinese object buyer. And there's some Japanese things that have turned up also that are over on the global member pages that look good. And last week on eBay and Catawiki, they had some very good results that we're going to be going through. And I wanted to start off first. We're going to start with some of the stuff that popped up that are now on the global pages. One thing I wanted to mention was that we did, we were able to get the invaluable situation squared away on the global pages. As some of you know, they had done something that blocked our ability to pull images. It's a big company. They're a little slow to get around to doing things. We finally got them to do it, so life is back to normal. A lot of the stuff that's on Invaluable is also on Live Auctioneers. 80–90% of the auction houses use both these days just to make sure they don't miss anyone. I think it's kind of silly, but they're so afraid of missing a bid that they pay all this extra money for technology they really don't need all the time. But at any rate, we're going to take a look and see what was going on. One of the things, and make a little adjustment here, there we go. One of the things I wanted to talk about was a couple of things that popped up that are over on at Christie's and some other places. This is the Invaluable page. It's now repopulated with items. There's some good things on here. Some of the things are also over on the Live Auctioneers page as well. Some very nice Chinese textiles. Gallery Zach's got a good sale coming up, and a lot of other things that we'll get into. One of the things that I wanted to mention was, hold on a second here, Live Auctioneers has this, and this is a Christie's sale that's taking place. As you know, Christie's also advertises their sales on Live Auctioneers as well as their own site. And this is a sale that's taking place over in the UK in almost a couple of weeks, 12 days, 17 hours from today, whatever that is. And I came across this. This is one of the nicest pair of Famille Rose porcelain, export porcelain urns or fish bowls I've ever seen. These are absolutely stupendous looking. The enamels on them are incredibly bright and strong. You notice here that the gilding is still very good looking. All of the colors are in great shape, and they come on these absolutely fantastic gesso and wood carved Italian stands. And they came out of a collection in Italy from a very, very famous dealer. And if you take the time to read the description on here, you see this name. They bear the paper label of Accorsi Pietro. And Pietro Accorsi was one of the greatest antiquarian art dealers in the world. For not just Chinese, not only handled Chinese stuff, but he brokered deals for Rembrandts and all the major artists during his time. He died in the early 1980s, 1982, I think. But he lived through this amazing period of great objects that came onto the market, and he was involved with a large number of the transactions that took place. And there's now a museum in Turin, up in the Piedmont region, that he created from his home. This was his house, and he had absolutely impeccable taste. And this is the museum. Unfortunately, it's closed right now due to the pandemic that's going on. But if you ever get to the Piedmont region, to the city of Torino, you want to go to this museum. It's very big. It's considering it's a residence. I think it's 17 rooms. It's filled with some fantastic things. They have lots of information on here about it. But one of the things that's in this house is considered to be one of the most important pieces of furniture in the world that he owned. And this is a little side thing from away from that to give you an idea of who this guy was that had sold those Chinese fish bowls. This is a piece of furniture that he owned that was made around 1730 or 20 by a very famous cabinet maker, and the cabinet maker put his name right in the top of it in ivory, in the ivory panels. All this white work you see on here is all ivory. Petrus Perfetti. And he did this in Torino in 1738. It's one of the greatest pieces of furniture, certainly the greatest piece of furniture that was ever produced, probably in Turin, but also one of the finest pieces of furniture ever made. And it symbolizes, it's a wedding cabinet. It's a they call it an habitant secrétaire, which doesn't look at all like the French ones, which is the big flat front with the falling forward board on it. But it is entirely inlaid with ivory and then decorated with ink. Here it is. All this work here is ivory. All of this, all hand carved, all hand inlaid. Just an absolutely amazing piece of furniture. Even if you're not that interested in furniture, this is just a stupendous piece. And there's a room named after it in the house. It was so important. And if you ever get there, it's called the Pitti Room, and you can go there and you can examine it and spend some time poking around in the museum. But at any rate, this is the provenance to these pair of fish bowls. These are the kinds of things he handled. He handled only the best, and the estimate on them is a little bit steep. But if any of you out there are in the financial position to consider buying something great this year, you want to look at these, okay? You really do want to look at these. These are stupendous. They have amazing provenance, and the stands that they're sitting on are probably worth $10,000 or $15,000 to themselves. Just because of the amount of work that went into them. They're absolutely superb. The estimate is 40 to 60,000 euros, which I don't think is crazy. They're amazing, and the auction takes place in a couple of weeks. But the provenance on these, the quality of the objects, the stands, the whole thing is just a breathtaking package. And they are, how big are these? These are 23 inches high. Let me see, no, they're 16 inches high, the bowls each. They're about 2 feet wide, and then you have the stands, so they stand up nice and high. They stand up about 3-4 feet off the ground. Just great. Just love them. And then on over to here, I wanted to mention this again. I did a little looking on these. For those of you that are China trade, Chinese export collectors, this is the Howard and Ayers book, the famous 2-volume set. These guys were dealers. They were legendary scholars on the subject. And I did some digging around. And this particular pair of books typically sells for, on the low end, for around $400, 400 euros a set. And on ABE, I found them up for over $1,000, $1,200. And right now they have 5 bids. They're up to $60. And they close tomorrow, Saturday. And this is new auctions in Beechwood, Ohio. If you're seeing this video and it's Friday night and you want to get 2 very hard to get pairs of books, you might want to chase these. I don't think you're going to get them for much less than $300, but you might get them for $250. Much less. You might get them for $250 though, or $200. Who knows? But if you've always wanted this set of books, it is a very, very, very scholarly set of books. It's been around for a number of years, and you want to chase that. You really do if you want to have it in your library. Now, over to some live auctioneers results. There were some pretty interesting things this week that sold. One of them was these 2 Kyoto items that sold. And one of the items I thought was quite attractive was this 5-chimney spout or 5-spout pot. They call them chimneys sometimes. And you see the same form was done in China, and this is probably where they got the idea to do it, because there was a lot of emulation in Japan of Chinese porcelains especially, and they did this form in the 18th century in China. But here they are done in a Kyoto interpretation, and if you're a Japanese porcelain buyer, this would have been a pretty terrific thing to buy. I also like the little water pot, but it's missing its handle, but it's still beautifully decorated. And the pair of them only went for $130. All right, that was a terrific buy, and this was, who sold this? Eldred's here on Cape Cod. So I hope one of you got that. If you're a Japanese buyer, that was a good thing. And then also coming up is this, Willis Henry, who was also here in Massachusetts. There's a lot of auction houses in Massachusetts, and they're sort of coming back to life now. On the 21st is having a sale, and one of the things they're selling is this very attractive Japanese export tray. They have it listed as Chinese. It is not Chinese. It is Japanese lacquer. They don't deal. Willis Henry knows an enormous amount about. I've met the guy a number of times. He knows a lot about Shaker furniture and American decorative art. But Asian works of art, he's not so hot on. But he knew enough that this was a wonderful piece of work. He has a good eye. And this is an absolutely lovely lacquer tray. So if you're a Japanese lacquer buyer, you might want to check that tray out. It's got a modest estimate, $250, $350. I suspect it'll go for less than that. And I doubt he has reserves. Willis rarely has reserves on things. And he's right down in Marshfield, Mass., just on the south shore of Boston. So you want to check that out. Look into it. And then Gallery Zach, as I mentioned, is having a good sale over in Vienna. And one of the things he has is a really fine Canton ivory card case. This is a corker. The quality of the carving in this, if you look at the details in here, over the last year or two, 5 years, how long have we been doing these videos, we've covered a lot of ivory card cases. And they come in, as we know, a wide variety of qualities. They come from so-so commercial grade things to really fine Cantonese workshop carvings. This is on the very, very fine end. This is a very, very, very good piece of carved ivory. And if you're an ivory buyer, you want to go after this. This is a good one. I expect it'll do pretty well. He's got a €750 opening bid on it. I don't think that's unreasonable given the quality of the work. Always look at the quality of the work. The quality is what really counts. And the miniaturization of this carving is just stupendously fine. Just imagine trying to carve this. And this image is larger than life size if you're looking at it on your screen. This box isn't that big. It's only, let's see, how big was this? What was it? Size 15 by 10 centimeters. So it's 6 inches tall at the most and only about, 4 inches wide. But absolutely a gem of a carving for Chinese ivory. Just absolutely stupendous. And then over here to this, Carlo Bonti's having a big sale in Bruges over in Belgium. And in it he has this thing, this very, very lovely armorial wedding dish. And this dish has had a history, not this dish particularly, but this pattern has always been the subject of a little bit of controversy because it's a wedding dish. It's widely thought to be Yongchen period, except the wedding that this plate represents took place in 1736, which was after the end of the Yongchen period by 1 year. And there's a lot of speculation that how could it be Yongchen period if the wedding didn't happen until later. And if you go through and you look at this, was a very prominent family that ordered it in Milan, and they were owned a trading company and so forth. And right now, the suspicion is that it was ordered during the Yongchen period in advance of the wedding to be given as a wedding gift in 1736, because when they ordered it, of course, they didn't care about who was emperor or when he was going to die. They didn't know he was going to be out of office, out of power, in 1735 at the time. But at any rate, I suspect this set was probably ordered in around 1734, and they got it there, or 1735, when the announcement of the wedding was made. The set was produced, rushed over to Italy to be given as a gift, because fine dinner services from China were considered to be very important wedding gifts at the time. And this has the two symbols, the crest of the two families and so forth on it. And there's a long history. And if you want to know a little bit more about it, there's a very good dealer in France that we sort of keep an eye on. He's featured off the homepage. Here he is. This is Galerie Nicolas Fournery. And he gets very good things. He has very good taste. And he had the same pattern, a plate from the same service here. And he actually did a bit of a write-up on it. He does a very good research for all of the pieces that he sells. And you can check his site out. It's the kind of thing Nick handles. And if you don't know where you can find him, come over to the homepage at Bidamount.com and scroll down here for finding Chinese porcelain and art. And we have a link in here, right here for his site. There it is. And you can always just click that and go over to his website and look around. I just like his stuff. I think he's got such a good eye. He's a very attractive website. And I just threw the thing on there. I asked him if it was okay, and he said sure, and we added it to the homepage a few months ago. He doesn't pay us to do it. We just did it because we like his stuff. All righty. Now, let's mosey on over to what happened on eBay last week. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff on the global member pages for those of you that subscribe, and you want to check it, and we'll be updating it again. We updated it 2 or 3 times this week. We did 2 big updates, and we'll be going over it again probably tomorrow morning while I'm having my coffee. I'm not going anywhere tomorrow. It was 0 here almost this morning, and we had 2 storms this week. It was crazy. We had crazy weather this week, absolutely wild, especially off the water. We had big waves all week, big waves. All right, now what happened over on the eBay newsletter page, the Bidamount newsletter page this week? There were a number of things on there. There was this. This was an interesting pot. It's Japanese lacquer over porcelain. And this is a technique that they started doing fairly early, and they did more and more of it during the Meiji period. And this was a very nice example, a nicely shaped pot, very classic Japanese shape. And then they would throw the porcelain and then coat it with lacquer. I actually own a smaller jar, very similarly decorated. This that I've had for years and years and years. I've had it probably for 30 years. I just like it. For a long time, it was on loan to my mother. I didn't loan it to her. I gave it to her, and then she passed on. I ended up getting it back, but she liked it too. And we had one that we sold years ago that was an early Arita example that we actually sold to the PBD Essex Museum that had open areas on it in blue and white with children playing Go all around the outside of it. It was a terrific piece. Came out of a collection actually here in Gloucester back over 20 years ago. But at any rate, this was a heck of a nice pot. And it went very reasonably. Look at that, 150 euros. All right, for a nice big piece. And it was a good size. It was 41 centimeters in height, or roughly, what's that, about 16 inches tall. Nice looking pot for a very reasonable price. So there you go. And then over here is another armorial dish. I mentioned this last week. A very attractive example that was also Yongchen period, that was over on Katowiki, and it ended up selling for $2,400. All right. Now the one that just as an aside, the one that that's I mentioned before, similar to the one that Nicholas Fornery has. Let's get back to this. This one, we did find one that's, just so in case you're looking at the body sale and you're wondering how much it's worth, we did find one that sold at Christie's a few years ago I think it was from the Hudroff collection. I should have mentioned this before. And it was a 9-inch dish. This is a charger. This is bigger. This is 38 centimeters. And the charger sold with another plate for about 2,300 pounds. All right, so figure this is a charger. It's got a 1,500 to 2,000 pound euro estimate. That's very much I think very much in range. Chargers typically sell for several times the price of just a plate because the chargers are rarer. And this is a good size one. So keep that in mind if you look at it. If you can pick it up, if you can buy it for less than 2,000 euros, you got a real good buy on your hands, I think. All right, now there's this. This sold for $2,400. It's apparently a very well-known crest. Somebody emailed me, and it's a fairly highly sought-after one. And this one was also just a foot wide, a 12-inch dish, so it's right on the edge of being a charger. So there you go, and it brought 2,400 euros. All right, now over to here. Some of the things that sold. Protocultures had an auction up last week. We featured this in the newsletter because I just liked it. I thought this was such a handsome package. A Kangxi dragon bowl with bronze mounts, gilt bronze mounts on it. Very nicely done. I don't know how old the mounts were. They're probably late 19th or early 20th century, but very well fitted and a very good choice for this piece of porcelain. Here's a picture of the bottom. Yeah, that looks like late 19th, early 20th century bronze work. And the way they did the beading and the good edge up here. Yeah, but it's a heck of a good package. And they did a lot of good bronze work at that time, especially in France. Did a lot of it. And beautiful looking bowl. Absolutely beautiful. The underglaze blue of the dragon and then the overglaze enamels of the reds and the yellows all came together really, really well, I think. And I think the shape of the bowl was particularly successful. It was very nicely thrown. Beautiful, beautiful shape. And here's a nice detail again of the dragon, and the gilding, as you can see, is still in place on it, and around the edges the black outlining is very good on it, and the interior of it was also nicely decorated. And you notice that the underglaze blue rarely has wear because it's under a glaze, but the overglaze enamels also look to be in good condition. And I think that made it pretty desirable to a lot of people. At any rate, it sold for $2,678 US, or 1,938 pounds in the UK. Protocultures is based in Manchester, in case you're wondering. They sell a lot of things. They've been around for years, and every once in a while they come up with some really good things. All right, and then on to this, that painting that I mentioned last week, and I was tempted to buy it. I actually talked to my wife about it. I said, nobody buys that thing. I'm going to offer the guy $350 for it, see if he takes it. And before I could do it, somebody bought it. So I hope it was one of you, because I think that is just a nifty painting. Any rate, there it is, and it is sold. I went over to the completed items. Those of you that don't know about this, if you want to know, if you see a fixed price item and it sells on eBay, but you don't know what it's, it was a listed item, you want to see what it's sold for, you can come over here. And what it means is, if you see that line, first thing, if it's green, it means it's sold. And if there's a line through it, it means best offer was accepted. It means they didn't get the 4 1/4, but they accepted an offer. All right, and you see that a lot with this seller. He puts things up and he accepts offers on everything. That's something to know going ahead. All right, and a lot of dealers do that. They're willing to take a bit of a discount, 10-20% off, if it'll move the product along for them. They can put the money back in their account and go back to buying. Because this is what dealers really like to do more than anything. They like to sell the stuff, but they love to buy the stuff. And then there was this Kangxi dragon jar, very well-known type. This is sort of it's a good one. It's not a great one. It was sort of a commercial output type, but very nice, deep, dark blue cobalt on it. It's a fairly, standard form. The dragon around this side, the way they've coiled them, is nicely done. And then they have these sort of very big feet, very big clawed feet on it. And notice there are only four talons. Okay, there's this whole thing that they always have 5 talons. They don't. Sometimes they have 4. Okay, and here you have a cloud under here that looks like the 5th. It's not one. All right, so this is a 4-clawed dragon, but very nicely done. Good details overall. Here's a picture of the top of it. Nice looking Kangxi mouth. Nice tight hard paste. And there's a picture of the bottom. Very typical. Slightly canted in, rounded. And a little bit dirty. This foot rim, that foot rim would clean up spectacularly well with a little bit of a strong soap and detergent. You never have to worry about hurting porcelain with strong cleaners, really. You don't want to use acids on it, but you can use any, fantastic 409 easy off oven cleaner. As long as there's no gilding or anything to be impacted, you could use anything on them. And they will clean up beautifully. They will clean up quite beautifully. And then on to this. This was absolutely lovely. This is also a Kangxi jar. It had a finial on it, a bisque finial on top of an animal, but his head got knocked off, unfortunately. But this is a very good example of a well-known type of Kangxi porcelain, where they have this cafe brown rim on it, and the decorations going around it with this shape of lid. But the quality of the decoration on this is much better than most of the ones you've seen. Most of the ones you see in this style, it's a little bit sloppy. These are absolutely symmetrically very attractive, the way they did the repeat pattern on here. The rue heads coming up, and then the lotus flowers, rue heads, lotus flowers, but very tight, very precise, very nicely done. Good looking pot. Here's a picture of the bottom. Has a firing gap here. That's not a damage crack. That's just from firing. And the foot, again, looks sort of like that ginger jar we just looked at again, rounded, pushed in a little bit, very sharp edge where the glaze stopped. Typical characteristic of Kangxi pieces. It doesn't mean it's Kangxi if it's stopped short very neatly, but it's something you do see on Kangxi pots. All right, and there's a picture of the inside. Nice white interior. And this did pretty well. It sold for $1,531 with a damaged finial, which I found pretty interesting. I liked it a lot, so I wasn't too flabbergasted by it, but I just thought it was just a handsome, rather better than average example. And then over here, there was this very nice 3 Friends of Winter Chinese Kangxi Amari palette jar. This was a very attractive pot. This really was. The detail on it, this was Migulari had this. Migulari had a lot of stuff up last week, and all of it was good. Here's a picture of the foot rim. That brown foot, that's not actually the right color for that foot. That's just dirt and grunge and grime. what you can see is a little bit under here, and a lot of that would come off with a good cleaning. But here's a picture of the mouth. Again, very tight, very dense porcelain. Here's a picture of the body. The prunus trees were beautifully drawn. The gilding was still in good shape. Notice here and here and here. All the gilding was there, pretty much. Very little wear to this piece. Very, very little wear. There, the bamboo trees are these are so delicately drawn. Absolutely lovely. And then these nice, strong, bright colored flowers at the top. Just a great package all around. The stand and the lid and the base are not Kangxi period. These are 19th century lids, early 20th century lids and bases that were made for these when they were exported. It was a very common thing. There were a lot of people carving stands and lids in China between 1890 and 1930. It was a big business. This jar brought $3,880, which I think is perfectly fine. It's a lovely jar. And then over here to this was a great buy. Now we're looking back at some of these Chinese export pieces that are of wonderful quality, beautifully decorated, top quality cobalt, and they sell so reasonably, it's unbelievable. All right, here, this lovely platter with a spotted deer pattern on it and pine trees around a lake. Just a charming scene. It's a scene you've seen. It's a scene you see in Chinese paintings. But they used that pattern and applied it to export porcelain. And somebody picked this up, I think, pretty reasonably. $400 on the nose. It was about a foot wide, 13 inches wide. Looked to be in nice condition, and heck of a nice looking platter. Nice looking platter, and they hang great on a wall. Get them and hang them. The quality that you see, I've said it a million times, on Chinese export porcelain, on the better export porcelain, is easily on a par with the stuff that was made for the Chinese taste, for the Chinese market. Off of it, it's much, much, much better. All right, so some of their stuff is on imperial quality, but at any rate. And then you had this one, another one, a more typical type, without the spotted deer, but this very well-known, almost a stock pattern landscape scene with the Rocky Mountains and the pagodas and the towers and the terrace protruding out over the water, and people, again, on the bridge. That's sort of a thing with Chinese export porcelain. But nice-looking border decoration, beautifully done, good even colors, all that. And look at this. Somebody got a great buy. $258. All right, I think that is fabulous. I think that is just fabulous. I hope one of you bought it. I like these plates, and even if they're not hot stuff in China, don't worry about that. Buy them because the artwork is good. Always buy the quality. Leave a bid too. Boy, I'll tell you, if some of you saw that and thought you'd buy it and you didn't, well, as I've said a million times, leave a bid. Just leave a bid. You'll be surprised once in a while. And then over to this is this very nice 18th century, probably Qianlong period, famille rose plate with a couple of birds on it. Absolutely charming plate. And what's really nice about this too is that there are several things that stand out. One is the simplicity of it. The simplicity and the elegance of it. You have these two birds, one perched, one ascending, and then it's punctuated by these very strongly colored flowers in red, famille rose going around it, and then just all encircled by a simple rim. Every element on this plate pulls it together. If you didn't have that little rim decoration, it wouldn't look quite as strong. If you didn't have these little flowers, it wouldn't look quite as strong. And if you didn't have these crisply drawn birds squawking at each other, it would be a very different visual experience. But overall, the total package, you always have to look at it and say, are all the components, when they're put together, how do they look? And this looks absolutely lovely. A very, very nice plate. And ended up selling for $688. It's 35 centimeters, so it was a charger. It was about a 14-inch plate. And what a thing to hang on a wall. It's just like a painting. No different. Absolutely great example. And then over here to this was another charger that sold mid-19th century rose mandarin. I think this was, 37 centimeters. There it is, 14.8 inches. Just a hair under a 15-inch plate. Nicely done. Good-looking border on it. I love the large bat they threw in on the edges around the outside of it. And you have this court scene with people with banners coming forward. I don't know what the occasion is. I wasn't able to figure that out. There is some calligraphy here in little panels on the corners. And it ended up selling pretty well. Did $691 for the rose mandarin dish. They dated as 1860. I think it might be a little bit older than that, but regardless, it's a very nice looking plate. Very nice. And also was this cup. A beautiful flat-footed, almost chalice-formed cup. It was about 9 or 10 inches tall, later 19th century, but beautiful colors, softly enameled, and just an interesting shape. Just a very nice shape. It's a beaker form you don't see very often. And a lot of people liked it. It ended up selling for $948, just a little under $1,000, because again, it's an atypical form. It's sort of like that vase we saw last week that had the Chinese taste upper and lower sections, and then it had the grisaille section in the middle on that huge goof-form vase. They call them cuspidors sometimes. It's really not. But anyway, the grisaille landscape of Europe around the inside, just different, something different. And if it's successful, they're worth. They tend to have more value, and if you're going to buy it, expect to pay a little bit more. But on this, it's the same thing. This is an absolutely lovely chalice or cup with a nice looking base on it, and somebody paid almost $1,000 for it. And then over here to the panels, the silk panels, they did sell. And I was absolutely fond of these. I thought the decoration on them was wonderful. And as you remember, I think they were at $40 or $35 or something when we looked at them. And I hope one of you bought them. I really do. These were absolutely lovely. The shipping was a little heavy on them, but they're hard to ship. These are big panels. They need big boxes. And when you buy big things, you expect a bigger shipping bill. But at any rate, I thought these were absolutely lovely, and I thought, $300 to $500 a piece sounded about right to me, I think I said. And they ended up selling for $1,755, so we were pretty close. They ended up selling for about $430 each, roughly, and then the shipping charge of $200 from to here in the U.S. from Great Britain to here, it would have been 200 pounds to ship them, or about $260, which I don't think is bad. If you're going to ship one of them, you wouldn't say that one of them at $60 to ship it was unreasonable, or $70, and that's about what it came out to. But absolutely wonderful, $1,755, and somebody's going to have a beautiful room from that. Beautiful. And then over here to this, the garden barrel that I like so much. As I said last week, most times garden barrels sell, they sell for $1,500, $2,000, sometimes $1,200. But this one was particularly well done and particularly good condition. The bosses, these buttons going around the outside, these bosses that are on it, were all in good shape. The top decoration was good. The tops of these garden barrels are often worn. This one didn't show any wear at all. It was in very good condition. There's a picture of the bottom of it. It's a good, authentic old barrel, but very high quality decoration throughout, and very nicely done. Lots of gilding in the background and in the in-between spaces, and I like this the way they've got the figures modeled and so forth. Just a nice looking piece, and a lot of people liked it. It ended up selling for $2,764. I don't know who the buyer was, but somehow these guys have pretty reasonable shipping on this. 120 pounds to the U.S. for that. And garden barrels are big and heavy and hard to ship. If you're a dealer and you're thinking of putting some garden barrels on eBay or on Etsy or any of these selling sites, do your measurements carefully before you do it. Make sure you allow for a big enough box and get an accurate shipping rate, because these garden barrels always pack out at right on the edge of the limits. And if you go over the limit, you can't ship at post office, so you end up using UPS or FedEx, and it can be often more. But domestically in the U.S. right now, actually, some of those other companies compared to the post office offer a better deal, especially on longer distances. So at any rate, wonderful garden barrel. I really liked it. And then over here to this was nifty. This is a little tiny Wan Li period a box with a duck in the reeds and so forth on the cover. This is not an extremely rare thing, but it's a charming thing. And it's interesting because the quality of the decoration is very good on it. And it's a nice subject matter. Sometimes the subject matter in these boxes got a little tedious. It's just, flowers and lines, flowers and lines, flowers and lines. This one, they put this cute little duck in here, and he's sort of suspended. He's swimming along between this little clump of lotuses and those. Just absolutely charming. This box is only a couple inches wide, and it ended up selling fairly modestly. It had 150 to 200 euro estimate, and it sold for 55 euros. So I think somebody got a nifty buy. And this was a nice real one. There's a picture of the bottom. Looks perfectly fine to me. And there's a picture of the interior. There's a little bit of chewing around, if you look here, a little bit of chipping and nicking, because these boxes got put together all the time. People use them, and women put face rouge and things on them and so forth. And they tend to put them down a little hard, and you get these little nicks on the edges. But the artwork on the top of this I just thought was charming. I just really did like that. And then over here to this, the Japanese Amari teapot that's sold. This was a wonderful teapot. This was relief work all through here. Nice looking handle. It's got these vines coming off. You can see them here, these roots sort of coming off the handles, and this very serpentine cyma curved spout, and this nice square straight neck off the body, and then this flanged flat rib with it looks like a cow or something, an animal's head on the top. Somebody picked this up for 182 euros. All right, and this was an old pot. This was an 18th or very early 19th century pot. Beautifully done. The seller thought it was 18th century. I can't argue with it too much. Had a 300 to 400 euro estimate, which I did not think was unreasonable. And somebody left a bid and got it for under 200 euros, or around probably about $240 US. Nifty buy. That was a good buy. And then over here is this Kangxi dish that was on. We featured this last week because I just liked it. I love these plates where they put baskets of flowers. This one is a bulb tray with blossoms coming out of it, and almost a little bit like a bonsai with this tree branch coming up and so forth. And then these lovely alternating panels of precious objects and landscapes and people and so forth around the outside. Just a very, very nice thing. And notice the piece is sitting on a little red lacquer table. Absolutely lovely. And somebody picked it up for 700 euros, which I think is very, very good. And it was not a huge one. It was only 27 centimeters or about 8 or 9 inches, but very nicely decorated. And as I said last week, I think the photography on this, he overexposed it by quite a bit. I think the colors would be much stronger when the person gets them in person. But if you use very, very bright lights and manual settings on a camera, you want to be careful you're not getting overexposed. If you get it overexposed, retake the picture. I think the seller should have done that here, because I think he hurt himself. And if you're shooting something that's primarily white like this, don't shoot it against a primarily grayish white background. Put it on something much darker to contrast and give a more even effect as far as the light goes. Just a tip. All right, now let's see what's coming up. There's a few things coming up this week. As always, we're gonna load up the newsletter page, and we'll send you all a notice later on this afternoon if you've signed up for it. And it's free. You just fill out this little form here, put your email address in, and every Friday you'll get notified with a link to the page to show you what we've just put up. And what's come up this week. Right now, this closes on Monday. This is a really nice dragon tea set being offered by Super Shrink, who used to be here in Massachusetts and is now down in, what are they, North Carolina somewhere? North Carolina. He must have retired. Anyway, nice looking set by Z Wu. And as always, you can go over to the reference section on the homepage at Bidamount, and where the books are in the little black drop-down box, go over and pull up the silver book, and you can look up and see who this silversmith was. I'll try to do that before next week when we review it. And then there is this very nice. Last week we had the gold thread dragon road. I missed I'm going to try and find out what that sold for. It just reminded me. But at any rate, you have a silver one, beautifully done. This is a dealer in New Hampshire, I know, Steve, and this is he's a good picker. He's always running around to auctions. And his son works with him too, which is nice. And he came up with this very lovely robe, and it looks to be in quite good condition overall. I'd call it, close to A condition. No worse than B minus. At any rate, it's got 3 days to close. It's up to $630. Should bring $2,500 to $3,500. We'll see, but nice quality. This is let's see here. Ends on Monday. All right, now over to this. This is an interesting vase. There's a Gerun Tang seal on the bottom, this mark. And he has it listed as early Republic period. It's actually a mark that was used mostly from the later 1920s through the 1940s. All right, he's off a little bit on that. But the Gerun Tang mark appears on these vases, these Republic vases, and this is a nice one. Okay, I'm not knocking the vase at all. It's got the classic, the black tree with the blackbirds all over it, and these lovely sort of signature yellow flowers, and then these orangey flowers at the bottom. Here's a picture of the back. It is most heavily decorated on one side. Here's the back of it. There's the front of it. But very well potted. Beautiful potting on this. As these marked pieces with that mark always are. Very lovely shape to it. Mouth is in good condition. He's got good photographs in here. Again, a white vase against a nice dark blue background makes it easy to see the piece. And He's got a cut on his finger. Look at that. Oh, well. There it is laying down. You get another shot of it. But this is a nice looking vase, and right now it hasn't gotten very far. It's got 6 days to go. If you're a Republican porcelain buyer, you want to look at this. It's estimated it's up to, I don't know, I would estimate it probably $2,000 to $3,000 anyway. It's up to $179, 7 bids. Closes next Thursday. It will be in the newsletter. Dr. Godfrog over in the UK in Manchester has this nice looking vase. Absolutely nice looking vase. All right, and that's about it for the week. We'll find but we have a bunch of other things to add to the newsletter page this week from both eBay and CataWiki. They've been very, very busy and getting busier as we move into the new year. And do check out those sales that on Invaluable and Live Auctioneers that we posted for the global members. By the way, thank you for so many of you signing up for that. I don't look at how many people have signed up that often because I don't have the time, and hundreds and hundreds of you. So thank you. It pays for the sites. It helps. It does help pay for everything because it's the monthly overhead of running all this site in particular, and now the new one that we are still working on. I'm not going to say anymore, but it's coming along fine. We're always sending a check to somebody, it seems. At any rate, we're glad to do it. And have a wonderful weekend. If you haven't subscribed to us yet here on YouTube, please do. And if you aren't familiar with Bidamount.com and you haven't used it yet, come over, join the forum. And one of the things I wanted to mention was some people, and I keep saying it, if you have something you want to know more about, before you submit an identification assistant thing to us and pay us for it, you can always throw it on the, and I know a lot of you have done it, throw it over on the forum. The forum is free. You can put things up there, and there's some really smart guys over there, and they can help you identify most of the things that you're likely to come across. All right, and they'll be gentle about it if it's a disappointment, and they'll be enthusiastic if it's something exciting. All right, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, and thanks very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Bye-bye.